is a really important part of mental health, and it's also a part that not a lot of clinicians get educated about, and therefore like people in therapy or in any mental health setting don't get educated about it a lot. So I've tried to talk about it on my own social media page as a way of, letting people know that like there is more to mental health than just therapy, than just medications. So yeah, thanks. It's crazy how even therapists are taught to like be impersonal like that.
Yeah.
You're taking something so personal and you're making it into like this such a professional experience. And
Yeah.
it's weird because it's like you're talking on an intake session. It's like you're already asking people about like, do you have any sexual issues? Are you, what's your relationship like? Tell me about your trauma the first time you meet them. Know that like most people have heard the term nervous system regulation, but not a lot of people know exactly what it is or what it means. And I think it's kind of vague because the word's thrown out there a lot and you see it with like breathing exercises and meditation. And you know that like those kinds of things can regulate your nervous system. But like why? So I think when talking about nervous system regulation, you kind of have to have like a basic understanding of the fight or flight response. And a lot of people do have a basic understanding of that. So like you have this automatic part of your nervous system, and you have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. And the sympathetic is going to be like your stress response, your fight or flight, like that part where when you get stressed about something or you're scared of something, your body's going to react and all your blood's going to rush to your muscles, your pupils are going to dilate, your heart rate is going to increase, you're going to start breathing faster, that fight or flight response. And what nervous system regulation is being able to go into that state and to actually be able to like come out of it and have this rest and digest response, this parasympathetic nervous system, and to be able to like flex between both of them without getting stuck. So you have the one that's fight or flight, the sympathetic, and you have the rest and digest, the calm part of your nervous system, the nervous system that calms you down. And it brings your breathing rate back down, your muscles relax again. And when you can kind of go in between both of those again and again without getting stuck, your nervous system's regulated. When you kind of get stuck in that fight or flight, or you kind of move through all these different emotions and you feel like you're in a roller coaster, or you don't have any control over your body or control over your emotions, that's being dysregulated. That's a dysregulated nervous system. So to talk about, like how do you get there? Like how do you get into like a regulated state? I think you kind of have to know like what does it actually look like when you get stuck, first of all. So like how do you know you're dysregulated? I think that's an important question before you can know how to get regulated. When you're stuck in a dysregulated state, it looks like anxiety and depression, PTSD. It could be substance use, difficulty concentrating, difficulty regulating your emotions. It can be physical symptoms. It can be not being able to fall asleep, digestive issues, mood swings, overreacting, being easily startled. Those are all signs that you have a dysregulated nervous system. And those things can be caused by trauma, by prolonged stress, by addictive substances or stimuli. And I say stimuli because even your being on your phone too long can make you dysregulated. Basically anything that overwhelms your nervous system to the point where you can't think your way out of it anymore because your body is so overwhelmed that that fight or flight has to take over. When you talk about regulating, you have to be able to do things that get you back into that parasympathetic state. How the heck do you regulate your nervous system? So I personally, this is not like a scientific thing. I just do this personally. Like I like to separate them into tiers because I think when it comes to regulating your nervous system, there's so many things you can do. And there's such a range. Like anybody can start regulating their nervous system, but there's different levels that people kind of can go to and different places where people can start. If you're somebody who's like, I've never done this, I have no idea what I'm doing, like I don't even know how to self-care, I think the most basic things that you can do on this like first tier, like things that you could do tonight if you wanted to, are like sleep hygiene, like just getting your circadian rhythms back into this functional place. So like going to bed and waking up at the same time, getting into a consistent sleep schedule, which I know can be harder done than said. Wait. That's easier said than done if sleep's a hard thing for you. But one way to improve sleep is also just like getting sunlight on your eyes right in the morning. Um, Being able to cut out processed foods, like before you even, when it comes to diet, before even trying to eat foods that are better, one of the easier thing is to just say like, okay, what can I replace before I start going and being like, okay, I'm not going to eat any of these toxic chemical whatever. Just focusing on how can I cut out like the worst things in my diet and just focus on getting more whole foods in. And then things like just going on a walk, like getting outside more, just getting more movement into your day without necessarily having to put the pressure on yourself of like, I need to go to the gym every day. Like, I need to do this whole exercise routine. Just these basics of like getting outside, sunlight, good sleep hygiene. And then on this other tier, like the second tier, you have things like breath work, where you can practice breathing. And there's so many different kinds of breathing exercises you can do. And even just taking a moment in your day. Like I know, like I have a client who every time they hit a red light when they're driving, they practice breathing. They just inhale and exhale really deeply and just spend a moment with themselves. Meditation, spending more time in nature, listening to music that really makes you feel connected with yourself, and even just listening to music and like tapping to the rhythm. Or if you're somebody who's like really into music, or you play an instrument, or you are a dancer or anything like that, like just finding ways to bring something musical into your life can be a great nervous system regulator. um, and then you have this third tier, which is kind of like the more in-depth stuff, the harder stuff, which is practicing coping skills, emotional regulation, really doing the hard things to heal relationships, creating a routine in a predictable environment, lifestyle changes, even therapy. It can be a hard one because some people, they've been in therapy their whole lives. Other people, it's hard to even get that first session. Um, and then you can go as basic as like a long hug. Like that is one of the best things you can do for your nervous system on a daily basis. That doesn't require like a ton of time. It doesn't require any money. Just like somebody that you feel comfortable with, just hugging them can like regulate your nervous system immediately, because then your rhythms literally start talking to each other. And if you hug someone for a long period of time, like your hearts will start beating at the same time. In terms of like what is an so we talked about what does a dysregulated nervous system look like? We got that. What does it look like when your nervous system is regulated? Like how does your life look different? And it can look like just healthier relationships, like feeling less reactive to things, feeling like you're in control of what you say and how you react and your behaviors, and kind of having this sense that like you get to make the decisions about how you respond to things. And it's not just like this automatic, like you feel triggered a lot, or you feel like your trauma or your past experiences are kind of dominating everything. It can look like more stress resilience, like feeling like when something bad happens or something stressful happens, you can handle it better yourself more. You can focus on solutions instead of just getting so overwhelmed that like you don't know what to do. And then there's the physical side of things, where you start to see like a reduction in chronic pain, inflammation, like people with chronic back pain or people with like arthritis and things like this, like they see a reduction in those symptoms when their nervous system is regulated. And I know, especially for me, like meditating changed my skin. And like that was crazy for me because I know that like, you have like skin, you have like eczema, acne, anything like that, and they like throw all these creams at you. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. I don't want that. And the thing that really started to work for me was like meditating. And when I stop meditating, my skin gets bad. It's just like this whole crazy thing. But anyway, the physical symptoms are huge. And I would say also one of the most important reasons to regulate your nervous system because your brain affects every system in your body. It affects your immune system. It affects your endocrine system, your hormones. It affects literally everything. So when you start regulating your nervous system, you might see that like you get sick less. You have less like chronic symptoms. It could be like IBS, things like that, like infections even, especially the gut issues because the whole gut brain axis, usually gut issues cause mental health issues and mental health issues cause gut issues. That's why a lot of people with anxiety have IBS. A lot of people with ADHD even have IBS. There's so much research about this stuff. It's like very interesting. We're like, it's so funny because all these like ancient cultures, like all these ancient traditions and religions are so aware of all these connections. And it's like our Western science is like, hey guys, did you know that like your mental health impacts your physical health? And we're like, oh my God. And everybody's like, yeah, we've known this forever. But yeah, I mean, less anger, less people pleasing, less perfectionism. Those can be results of regulating your nervous system too, because when you're calm and you have control over your body, you get to have the actual space in your head to be like, this is how I want to act. This is how I want to change. This is how I want to change my behaviors and my reactions. And you get a choice because you're not being dominated by trying to survive and you feel safe enough. Solution is not to look for motivation because motivation is hard to find and it's inconsistent. And motivation is like very unreliable, especially when you said, like it's habit at this point. Like you're just used to certain habits. You're used to like being a certain way, acting a certain way. You have your own routine and it's become automatic. And to change something that you've been doing for a really long time is hard on your nervous system because it's going to resist so much. And then you feel that like dread of trying to change something. And it's like your nervous system and your brain are just going to drag you back and be like, no, we already know how to do this thing. Just do this thing. And I would say instead of looking for motivation, it's almost like trying to shut off the voice that's trying to justify why you want to do the thing you keep doing and to just try to do it without thinking about it. Like, okay, like what would you like to do instead of drinking coffee first thing in the morning? Okay, so drink water instead of coffee. Give yourself a goal that is very attainable, like something that's almost hard not to do. Like maybe you could start with like drinking coffee, like keep your coffee, but drink coffee and water at the same time. Like maybe you could start there. Get yourself a mug of coffee and pour yourself a glass of water. See if you could do both. Because usually you talk yourself out of it before you can even do it. A lot of people think like, I need the motivation so that I can do it, when really it's like you have to do it to get the motivation. Nobody has motivation. Anybody who's ever done something consistently wasn't relying on motivation, because if you rely on motivation, you're just going to stop after a week or as soon as it becomes not exciting anymore. It's like discipline has to trump motivation, like just doing it has to trump the motivation, because motivation always goes away. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about something, it's always going to go away. And like the thing that keeps you doing it anyway is learning how to keep doing it instead of trying to be like, do I feel like it today? Do I feel like it today? Do I feel like it today? And then the crazy thing is, once you start, like if you do something one time, even though you didn't feel like it, and you just do it one time, and it's something that's like doable. It's not like hey, I'm gonna go from never working out to like having a 3 hour gym session. Like that's crazy. No. But like say you're like, oh, I want to start, I'm just using working out as an example, but like say you're like, oh, I want to start working out. Maybe I can do just like 5 minutes, 5 minutes today. And if you do it despite not wanting to do it, like the dopamine that you get from it and like the reward that you get from it actually gives you motivation to do it. And now you've just created motivation for yourself by doing it, you know? But it wasn't there to start off with. For me, it's like waking up early in the morning. Like I just went on vacation and I mean, we were like, our sleep schedule was all messed up. I got back home. I'm used to waking up at 6. And like the past 3 days, I've been waking up at 8, which feels so late. And like, because I got to be at work at 9. So like, I'm waking up at 8 and I woke up this morning and I was like, I swore I was going to get up at 6. And I woke up at 8 and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, before you went on this vacation, you got up at 6 every single day. And the only reason why I was motivated to get up at 6 every day was because I was getting up at 6 every day. Like the second I went back to the old habit, now that got like ingrained in my body. And that's what my body's used to. It's like your body just wants to do what your body's used to. And that's it. Like sometimes there's nothing more to it. And if you can get your body used to something else, then that's great. But like you got to get it, you have to get your body used to it by starting. You have to care for somebody other than yourself. And like somebody's life is literally in your hands. It's a very different process because you're not like you're not just trying to think about yourself and your needs all day. It's like when you're a mother, like your needs come last a lot of the time. As much as you try to self-care, sometimes it feels like I'm not a mom, but it can feel like your needs have to come last. Like, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the whatever it is to like sit here and like hum and all day. So like I think, you know, when it comes to nervous system regulation and like these different tiers, it's like it doesn't have to, I've tried to explain this before. It doesn't have to be such an active process all the time. Regulating your nervous system doesn't have to be like taking out time to do something or trying to get every single thing down perfectly. It can be like trying to be more present in the things that you're already doing. Like that can be regulating your nervous system. It can be like, I mean, you can be washing the dishes and do it in a way that is more regulating for your nervous system. And I use washing the dishes as an example because it's something that like can either be like stressful, you're like, I don't want to do this, or it can be like so mindless, like you're not even mentally there when you're doing it. But like when you're washing the dishes, like even just like looking at the plate and being like, this is what I'm doing. I'm washing a plate. I'm here. I'm me. I'm in my body. Like something as simple as that can just like get your body and back into this feeling of safety just for a moment. And even just a small moment like that can change your entire day. And you're practicing not these like 20-minute meditations or these really long things. And if you have the time for them and you want to do them, then do them. But if that feels like it's too hard with the rigid schedule or feeling like your day can go a million different ways, it's kind of more about how you're doing something than what you're doing. And being with, I mean, making your cup of coffee and just like taking a second to like breathe and be like, I'm gonna sip this. I'm gonna be here with my coffee instead of letting my head go in 400 different places while I'm doing it. Dysregulated nervous system is definitely a separate thing from like a hormonal imbalance or like hormonal fluctuations. They can be tied together because like I did say before, like a dysregulated nervous system can throw off your hormones. So they can be connected. But if what you're experiencing is hormonal, then I wouldn't necessarily say that doing things like nervous system regulation stuff is going to directly address the issue. And I also can't say that I necessarily have like a do this just because like hormones aren't my Like I'm not like a pro in hormones, but I will say that I know a lot of people have experienced like hormonal fluctuations that are really just like difficult to go through. Like it feels like it controls you, like it controls like your month, your those 2 weeks, like a certain period of time. And I've also seen people be told by doctors that like that's just life and that's normal when really like there are ways to be able to regulate your hormones so that you're not constantly like going through this roller coaster all the time. Like that's not my area, so I can't say that like, oh, do this for your hormones. But yes, they can come together and regulating your nervous system can do wonders for your hormones, but outside of that, I'm not 100% sure. Meditating can be kind of like whatever you want it to be. I will say that. A lot of people who start off meditating like to do guided meditations. And to do that, like you can download an app, like you can download Headspace or something, or you can just literally go on YouTube and type in meditations and bring up a guided meditation. I'm sure there's podcasts. Like there's a ton of things that you could do to find a guided meditation. So it could be like mindfulness meditation, which is just meditation that kind of gets you to be present. So it could be something like a body scan is a really common one. Like just paying attention to like the sensations in your body from like your head all the way down to your toes, and the meditation will take you through that. It can also be something like visualization practices where you imagine like a place that feels really safe to you, and then in detail, and you're like, what does it smell like there? What does it sound like there? Those can be meditations. Or you could do something like, this is what I do, but like I look like I have a meditation music album and close my eyes and let my brain do whatever it wants. The only thing that I would say is different between the guided and not guided is not necessarily being like expert, but like how comfortable are you being silent with yourself? I think that's the difference. And I've definitely related to this. There's times where I still feel like this, but sometimes, like, if you put me in a room by myself on the floor with my legs crossed, like, I don't know what to think about. I just think about my day. I think about the things I'm stressed about. Sometimes it's hard to just like sit there and feel like you're doing something. So I think the guided is good for that because it gives you a starting point.